15 British household rules your parents enforced in the 1960s. Step through the front door of any British home in the 1960s, and you'd enter a world with its own traditions, rhythms, and unwritten laws. Childhood wasn't chaotic or free-form. It was shaped by a familiar set of household rules every parent seemed to know by heart. These weren't harsh rules. They were gentle boundaries passed down from earlier generations, designed to teach good manners, responsibility, and respect. Today, many of these rules feel wonderfully nostalgic, reminding us of a slower, more orderly time. Let's revisit 15 British household rules your parents enforced in the 1960s. 15. Don't you dare touch the good living room. The good living room was practically a museum display. Every 1960s family had one. The room reserved for visitors, special occasions, and the rare Sunday afternoon when everything felt ceremonious. You could peek inside, admire the polished wood, or marvel at the spotless sofa. But entering without permission was unthinkable. Parents would remind children that this room wasn't for everyday life. It was a symbol of pride, order, and hospitality. Kids learned early that muddy hands, toys, or snacks were strictly forbidden. It wasn't about being strict. It was about keeping one room pristine in a lively household. 14. Shoes off, always. Walking into the house with shoes on. Not in the 1960s. Parents treated carpets as sacred ground, especially if they had splurged on a fresh patterned carpet from the local shop. Children were trained to leave their shoes neatly by the door the moment they stepped inside. It didn't matter if you'd only gone as far as the driveway. Shoes stayed off. This rule kept homes clean, tidy, and free from the unpredictable weather outside. It also became a little ritual of respect, a quiet, "I'm home now" gesture that every child understood. 13. No talking when the news was on. The evening news had a special kind of authority. When the television flickered to life and the presenter appeared, the entire house shifted into silent mode. Parents leaned in to catch the headlines. Children froze mid-sentence, dodging the famous parental glare that seemed to say, "Not now." This wasn't about intimidation. It was about giving attention to something considered important and grown up. Children absorbed the unspoken lesson. Sometimes quiet is the greatest courtesy. For many families, this daily ritual became part of the rhythm of home life, shaping how kids understood respect and patience. 12. Bedtime was non-negotiable. Bedtime in the 1960s wasn't a negotiation or a suggestion. When the clock hit your allotted time, that was it. Off to bed, no questions asked. Parents believed routine brought stability, and they stuck to it. Kids might try their luck now and then, but there was no outsmarting a 60s parent. Staying up late wasn't seen as a treat for children. It was something reserved for adults who had work the next day. In many homes, bedtime routines included a warm drink, a quick tidy of toys, and maybe a story if you were lucky. 11. Finish everything on your plate. Parents in the 1960s didn't throw food away casually. Many had grown up during periods of rationing or remembered their parents' stories about frugal times, so wasting food wasn't just frowned upon, it was firmly discouraged. Children were gently expected to finish every carrot, pea, and spoonful placed in front of them. Even if it wasn't your favorite meal, the rule remained the same. Food was valuable. This rule didn't aim to pressure children. It was a reflection of gratitude and practicality. Families believed in making the most of what they had, and kids learned resilience at the dinner table. 10. Sunday was a day of quiet. In 1960s Britain, Sundays carried a calmness that wrapped itself around every household. It was the slow day, the peaceful day, the day of gentle routines. Shops were closed, streets were quiet, and parents encouraged a relaxed, respectful tone at home. No shouting, no rough games, and certainly no turning the house upside down. Families often spent the day together, reading, resting, preparing meals, or visiting relatives. It wasn't about being strict. It was simply the rhythm of life. Kids embraced the slower pace, often without realizing just how soothing it truly was. 9. Don't run inside the house. If there's one sound every 1960s parent recognized instantly, it was the thundering footsteps of children racing down a hallway. Running inside was quickly discouraged, not because parents wanted silence, but because homes were filled with fragile ornaments, framed photos, and treasured keepsakes. One wrong turn, and something precious might topple. Kids were encouraged to save their energy for the outdoors, where running around freely was part of daily life. Inside the home, the rule was simple: walk, don't race. It taught children mindfulness, and it saved more than a few prized possessions. 8. Lights off. When you leave a room. Switching off the lights was part of every 60 seconds household routine. Electricity wasn't cheap, and parents believed firmly in avoiding unnecessary waste. If you left a room, even for a moment, you turned the lights off behind you. Children learned this rule early, often hearing a gentle reminder floating from another room. Are you paying the electric bill? It became second nature. This practice taught kids the value of small habits and made them more aware of the shared responsibility of running a home. It also instilled an appreciation for being mindful and economical. 7. Mind your manners at the table. Dining in the 1960s wasn't just about the meal, it was about how you behaved around it. Parents placed great value on good manners, and the dinner table was where these habits were shaped. Children were expected to sit properly, keep elbows off the table, avoid interrupting, and use polite words. Meals were often family events, so respecting one another's presence was part of the experience. These mealtime manners weren't about perfection. They encouraged patience, respect, and thoughtful conversation. Even today, many people still hear their parents' gentle reminders, echoing in their minds when they sit down to eat. 6. Don't slam the doors. Whether it was a bedroom door or the front door, slamming was a universal no-no. Parents seemed to hear it no matter where they were in the house. A door slam was met with a calm but firm reminder, reinforcing the rule that everything in the home should be treated with care. It wasn't about noise, it was about gentleness. Children were taught to close doors softly, a lesson in respect and self-control disguised as a simple household rule. For many, this habit stuck for life, long after childhood ended. 5. Ask before leaving the table. In a 1960s home, you didn't just finish your meal and wander off. Leaving the table required a polite request. May I leave the table? Parents wanted meals to feel unified and respectful, a moment when the family paused to share time together. Asking permission wasn't restrictive. It was a small gesture of appreciation for the shared meal and the effort behind it. Kids learned that the table was a place where manners mattered and where the family connected. It gave mealtimes a sense of structure that many families fondly remember. 4. Outdoor clothes stayed outdoors. Coming home from school or play, you didn't lounge around in your outdoor clothes. Parents had a system. Outdoor clothes were to be changed out of quickly, keeping the home clean and tidy. Coats, jumpers, and uniforms were hung up or folded neatly, never left scattered across the house. This rule helped keep dust, grass, and general outside mess from getting indoors. It also taught kids organization and responsibility. Changing into home clothes became a small but meaningful part of settling into the rest of the day. 3. Be home before the streetlights come on. Every child in the 1960s understood this universal rule. You could play outside to your heart's content. Hopscotch on the pavement, football in the street, or biking with your mates. But once the streetlights flickered on, your freedom window closed. Parents didn't need to shout or chase after you. The rule was simply known. It instilled awareness of time and gave children a natural boundary between playtime and home time. Kids learned responsibility while still enjoying the open air and safe, familiar neighborhoods. 2. Hands off the telephone. Telephones in the 1960s weren't for children to play with. Most homes had only one phone, usually perched on a hallway table with a loud, distinctive ring. Long calls were costly, and conversations were practical, not casual. Kids were gently discouraged from tying up the line or making unnecessary calls. The telephone was a tool, not a toy. Children learned to wait their turn, keep calls brief, and use it responsibly. This simple rule made communication feel intentional and meaningful. 1. Respect the neighbors. Respect for neighbors was one of the most important household rules of all. Parents taught children to be considerate, whether it meant keeping noise down, avoiding ball games against someone's wall, or offering a friendly greeting. Community mattered greatly in 1960s Britain, and good neighborly relations were part of the social fabric. Kids learned that their actions affected others, and caring for the community started right at home. This rule shaped not just behavior, but character, leaving lifelong lessons about kindness, empathy, and shared responsibility. These 15 British household rules your parents enforced in the 1960s weren't strict commands. They were quiet lessons in respect, routine, and responsibility. They shaped daily life in a way that feels warm and familiar even today. Looking back, these simple rules weren't just rules, they were part of what made a house a home. Thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell.